And today is our spoiler review of Captain Marvel.
So Captain Marvel came out recently, internationally on Friday, which was International Women's Day.
Yes.
And we are going to give you a spoiler-filled review to what the employees at Video Plaza thought of this latest installment within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Gary, would you like to give your initial verdict before we get into actual spoilers?
Before we get into spoilers, okay, I thought it was an average film with above-average moments. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. This is my brief. Yes. I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought they could have done better. I thought they could have done a lot worse. I watched it in the evening after spending 2 and a bit hours watching Aquaman a couple of hours before.
Oh, okay.
So in comparison, yeah, Marvel wins. No, even though Aquaman did make a lot of money, and there were parts of Aquaman that weren't too bad as well.
I think you raise a kind of an interesting point about cinema and film viewing in general.
Bad films now make money. It's just the way it is.
No, but in terms of cinema viewing in general, you raise a kind of good point, because we don't view films within a vacuum. We do tend to, if we watch a film that precedes the film that we're going to watch, then that kind of influence our thoughts on what we think of the film. And kind of coinciding with what you were saying is that I thankfully hadn't seen any films the night before, or I watched in the afternoon or the morning building up to it. So I had what you might say a fresh, clean palate.
Yeah, a cleansed palate.
A cleansed palate.
Yes.
In terms of my own sort of very brief kind of verdict overview, is that as a Marvel film, completely standalone, out of context of all the others, I would give it a 4-star kind of rating, or you could, out of 10, that could...
As much as 4?
That could equate to a 7.5 or an 8. It's definitely not as cinematic as the Phase 1 films, and it is very long, at a 2-hour runtime in terms of rewatchability, but it's still there in with the Ant-Man sequel, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, somewhere within that kind of ranking system. But as a part of the new chapter of Marvel, the Phase 4, I would say it then definitely rates more on the average scale. 3 out of 5, maybe out of 10. I don't know what I'd classify that as, but yeah, mainly for the reasons. Just to kind of give a quick kind of overview, is that Brie Larson's character was kind of okay. She was competent at it and everything like that. But she didn't have a distinguishable characteristics about her in the same way that you could say of all the other Marvel superhero characters. She didn't really necessarily hit the ground running in the way that Robert Downey Jr. did with Tony Stark.
Just because he was likable.
There's another argument to be put there.
I mean, no offense to Brie Larson in the role. I do think she was miscast, and that's not her fault. Because she can act. She can act really well, and she does have charisma in a lot of other roles. Just in this, with that script, for some reason, she had zero charisma. Fair enough, not zero, because when she was in scenes with Samuel L. Jackson as Fury, that did kind of come across differently. That was fun to watch. That was funny. Her and her best friend, who was also her co-pilot, fighter pilot, in her piloting, a pilot colleague. They had really good chemistry, and charisma in scenes with her were great. Charisma in the scenes where she was talking to her best friend's child were really, really good. It's just a lot of the time her performance did fall flat. Yeah, but then again, I don't think that is her fault.
I think what I would really have benefited from for her character, perhaps. This is just my kind of opinion and how I would shape it or perhaps improve it.
10 years worth of films of character development.
No. In terms of, Marvel overall is brilliant in its output. But just me personally, how I would perhaps change the angle of it is considering that each of the characters has, like I've said, have very identifiable, distinguishable morals and characteristics. So, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, he's very much the kind of warrior. He kind of goes all out sort of thing, whilst Captain America, he's all about sort of goodness, and they've all got identifiable elements. Even obviously Deadpool isn't part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He's got a personality.
Even he, yeah, exactly. Well, I think what would have been great and made it even more in contrast with the fact that Captain Marvel going forward with their Endgame is meant to be this crucial piece in the puzzle, is that if she'd have been more of a reluctant hero, that would have been perhaps more interesting. The fact that she was someone who genuinely had issue with the idea of putting herself forward as a superhero, and just actually in actuality she's been cheated of her life as an everyday human being, because for the past 6 years she's been led to believe that she's part of this,
she didn't seem to care,
particular race. Didn't, she got over that pretty quickly, really, which
she came across like a grumpy teenager.
And it would have been better if she would have been more traumatized and perhaps a bit shell-shocked by the idea that she'd been cheated, and also she'd lost out on 6 years of her life.
She didn't even care that Jude Law's character lied to her for years and trained her to be a soldier for the Kree.
No.
The Kree ended up being like the enemy, not the Skrulls.
Yeah. You go out there, exactly.
Oh, the Skrulls weren't exactly the good guys either.
No. I mean,
but they were more of a casualty of war than an actual kind of menace. They were a menace to the Kree. They were an enemy of the Kree, but they weren't an enemy of Earth.
It would have been good as well from talking about the Skrull, that if that mythology had been expanded upon a bit more, because if the Kree were essentially sort of trying to be emperors of the universe by taking over other planets, surely they would have more than just simply the one enemy or one rebellious faction. There wouldn't just be these one type of people jumping from planet to planet seeking refuge, but not actually coming forward and seeking refuge, just hiding amongst the kind of people.
I do think we'll see the Skrull again, but not in an actual villain capacity.
Yeah,
because that was just one group of Skrull. I don't think that was supposed to represent the whole of the Skrull.
No. Also, I
empire.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it's just about creating a kind of an origin story. But whether or not the Kree will actually appear in the going forward, especially in Avengers or anything like that. I mean,
you'd expect to have seen them at some point between, like, Iron Man and Endgame. You would have expected to have seen them again already, and this be like their origin in the Marvel universe, as in more in a flashback form. Like, oh, this is the story of what happened when the Skrull was still good, or when they were still trying to find a home before they ended up joining the intergalactic kind of council, or whatever word, or before they became a big part of the universe, Well, but already would have been established as a race before Captain Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think what a lot of one person, I think like film critic or a film YouTuber said, which I think is a very interesting concept, is that because Marvel weren't 100% sure as to the fact that they'd be going on for 10 years, 10 years plus, 10 years and ongoing.
Yeah, they didn't think the first film they didn't know where that was going to go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if they had a crystal ball and knew precisely the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they probably, or might have done, which someone suggested would have been a great idea, is if the Captain Marvel had been sort of Easter egged and sort of teased and was kind of an element within those first Phase 1 films in some respect. And so even though you may not have seen her in a fully fledged solo film all those years back in the early 2000s, the late 2000s, Instead, you would have been introduced to her via Brie Larson, which, as you said, might have not been the best casting, but maybe another actress.
She could turn into good casting.
Yeah, she could do. But you would have felt more of an affinity with her character.
An infinity.
Yeah, exactly. With her character, on the basis that you'd have been familiar with her from the very beginning.
And also, as an actress, she could have grown in the role like all the other actors have.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Rudd didn't really need to grow in the role because he's Paul Rudd. He's been acting for so bloody long. Robert Downey Jr., been acting for so long, didn't need time to grow in the role. Cumbersnatch, been acting so long, didn't need loads of time to grow into the role.
No.
All the other actors portraying lead characters, maybe we'll take Chris Evans out of this equation. All of them were fairly young-ish actors that could carry a franchise for a lengthy amount of time and not have to be paid big bucks from the get-go. So these were all actors that didn't have the experience and grew into the character. I think Brie Larson falls into that category. Yeah. Now, Chris Evans, when he took the role of Steve Rogers' Captain America, he wasn't exactly a new actor, but he'd not exactly had loads of breakout roles.
No. And people associate...
And he's grown as an actor since becoming Captain America.
Oh, yeah. And people associate him with the flop that was the Fantastic Four films as well.
Yeah, exactly, which we have covered on a previous video.
Yes,
we've covered a different Fantastic Four film, but we do mention that Fantastic Four franchise.
Link in the description, maybe.
Yeah, link in the description. But yeah, he hadn't grown as an actor anyway, even though he was a bit older. He hadn't grown as an actor, but then he wasn't the perfect Steve Rogers from the get-go.
No.
I think he did a better job at being Steve Rogers than Brie Larson's doing as Carol Danvers from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think, but not by much. At least he tried to put a little bit of charisma in there and a little bit of heart into the character.
No, it's sort of...
But yeah, it was a better script
than
Captain Marvel. So
yeah, that is a good point.
You can't criticise Brie, the actress, for working with very little of what, which is what she had, very little.
Do you think, this is initially a subject that I was going to just sort of like talk about, but instead, to make it more interesting, I'll throw it out more as a question. Do you think they should have lent into the 90s theme more than they did?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you want me to elaborate on that?
No, okay. In which case, if I'll sort of maybe elaborate, is that in the same way that Stranger Things kind of set the ball in motion for 80s nostalgia.
I mean, 90s is very in at the moment.
Well, that's what I mean. Is that
I feel so wrong saying that,
but the thing is,
I remember the 90s. How was it in?
No, it's true. Is that in the same way that like I said, Stranger Things set the ball in motion for nostalgia on the big budget scale kind of thing, because obviously it was a big budget.
I think it's hard with the 90s.
Marvel could sort of be really be the pioneers of 90s nostalgia. They could. I
think it's very hard to be overly nostalgic about the 90s because it wasn't that long ago.
True.
Whereas when you're being nostalgic about the 80s, there's a lot more that's been laying dormant for a lot longer. And I guess a lot of stuff in the 90s spilt over to the millennium and went on a little bit further, which we remember it spilling over. Whereas we were born in the 80s, but we didn't grow up. We didn't grow up and were overly knowledgeable of what was going on in the 80s. So anything we see at the 80s just automatically comes across as nostalgic. The 80s was a different time, whereas the 90s, it is a different time, obviously, because it's the 90s, but I don't think it's a stark difference as us looking back to the 80s. So I think it can be a little bit difficult to throw in the nostalgia from the 90s. Maybe the non-90s kids notice a lot more than we do.
And I guess as well is that, that's true. That's very true. But also, I think what you were saying was quite right, is that unfortunately a lot of the signature trademark things that we, symbols kind of thing that you remember from the 90s actually began more in the 80s. Like sort of handheld game consoles.
There was an actual original Game Boy in there in Blockbuster.
Yeah, certain film franchises, like obviously like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future and Gremlins. And I mean, in a sense, there isn't anything from the 90s that is, well, except for maybe grunge, but even then, grunge kind of had its roots in the 80s. So, yeah.
Late 80s, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, I don't find looking at someone crashing through the ceiling of a Blockbuster as nostalgic. Because Blockbuster hasn't been closed that long, or has it?
There's still one going.
There's still one going, so it's not like you're looking back at something like... it's like looking back at Woolworths. It wasn't that long ago for us.
Yeah.
But then there's probably kids out there that are watching this that don't even know what a bloody Blockbuster is.
No, it's true.
To them, it's a different nostalgic effect because they're looking at nostalgia from the outside. We're looking at nostalgia from the inside. Just like someone who remembers the 80s really well, who was watching Stranger Things, would they feel differently watching it than what we feel?
I do think as well, the only way in which you can definitely quite easily accomplish a sense of nostalgia is through the score, through the soundtrack. And I think that they could have... It seems some of their song choices were almost as if in the edit they went, okay, we'll use this as the temporary track for now. It's pretty on the nose. It's pretty obvious. We'll use a No Doubt track kind of thing.
These better No Doubt tracks that would have worked there.
But not just that, they could have also used some Radiohead tracks as well. You know, just something that was a little bit...
Well, the thing is, they used No Doubt because Gwen Stefani is female, obviously. And Captain Marvel is female. So it was not to do with because the track worked there. It was to do with the fact that we need
the lyrics kind of
a 90s band with, you know, female centric lyrics that'll work over the scene. But there is probably loads and loads and loads of other songs from the 90s that probably would have fit better in that scene. I mean, I've not got anything wrong with No Doubt. I saw them live. I like No Doubt. I was a fan. I just don't particularly think at that moment in time it was used properly. I didn't. Some people probably do. Some people probably thought, oh wow, you know, No Doubt. I just think it took me out of the film. That was the issue I had. It took me out of the film because I'm like, oh god, I can see what they did there.
Yeah, it's in a way.
Which some people probably weren't taken out of the film by that.
No, I think it might have worked maybe a bit better if, in the same way, you know, the Quicksilver scenes which are some of the only real, you know, highlights in a sense of those X-Men films, is that if they'd have had the music kind of, also another good masterclass in scoring a film with
everything with Edgar Wright in it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Shaun of the Dead is that they should have taken a chapter or a leaf out of his book, and when they scored the music, the 90s music, whatever song. But as long as the action was kind of going with the rhythm of it, so it felt more organic rather than just kind of slapped on top. So
I think they could have done with a song that was actually a lot heavier there rather than pop punk.
Yeah, I didn't like the whole...
it wasn't even the fact that it was No Doubt, because like I said, I like No Doubt.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the fact that there was a bit of pandering to the audience and wink wink. That wasn't necessarily... It was just like, this is a bit too happy. Literally, that was it. It should have been something that was a little bit more like a call to arms.
Yeah, it's true.
And that song isn't a call to arms, no matter how good it is.
No. I also...
It's a classic, though. I do love the song.
Also, I think I consider, you know, a sort of baggage and association. I think I connect in the same way that people, when you think of Killing the Name Of with Rage Against the Machine, you think of The Matrix, you know what I mean? Because of that ending sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, it was Wake Up at the end of The Matrix.
Oh, sorry, Wake Up. Sorry, not Killing the Name Of. Yeah, so Wake Up. But yeah, with Hole...
# deep dive.
I associate that song more with American Pie.
Surely
more in a raunchy, not necessarily a kind of associated with a Marvel kind of 90s. If I was picking something as the end song, I would have picked something a little bit different. But
yeah, but that's us.
Yeah,
we're not exactly. We're not filmmakers.
No, but. It just reminded me too much of American Pie. That's just my thoughts on a podcast that is all about us talking about our opinions.
I don't know. I mean, what song would have worked better there? Maybe I'm thinking now. It's like surely they could have found something, but I'm thinking the top of my head, it's like, is there anything?
I'm sure they could have gone for a deeper cut, maybe found like another female-fronted band around the same era.
Don't say the female-fronted. I'd prefer it if you were. No, I don't think any group should be referred to as that. But in this context,
within that context,
a band with a female vocalist or a strong female presence.
Or female vocal. Whichever way you want to phrase it.
Female fronted just has so many different connotations in the music world that's really annoying for everyone involved.
Well,
because it's used as a term of a genre when it's not a genre.
Oh, it's true.
It's a descriptive term.
Yeah. Well, I meant that as a descriptive term, essentially. But, maybe... Basically...
But I know what you meant, but, we do have listeners that might have thought you were being a bit of a tool.
Tool would have been a good band. There we go.
Yeah, but...
I've already answered the question.
Probably more like Perfect Circle, maybe. No, they weren't in the 90s. No, I don't know.
Well, anyway, moving away from that end credit scene, I think...
Well, that wasn't the end credit scene, was Hole.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the end credits.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hole was the end.
I'll let them get away with that because I don't have to look at the screen and listen to it.
But no, that's meant to be your punchline of your film, a bit like Wake Up from Rage Against the Machine, Matrix. It's meant to be your, I would have just put some Rage Against the Machine in, but Or maybe just an original score, perhaps. There wasn't that much kind of...
Get one of these older 90s bands to record something new.
That would have been cool.
For the end. They could have had No Doubt come in and record something new.
Yeah.
That would have fit with the
Especially Gwen Stefani's not doing very much anymore.
Yeah, but she's got a lot of money, hasn't she?
Oh, yeah. But creatively, she's not really doing very much.
I saw No Doubt live in 2001. They were really good.
Is this called a platform for you to say?
I'm not going to go into the Gwen Stefani story. No. No, it was a good gig. So I mean, I would have happily have had them come in and record a new song specifically for the soundtrack. I think that would have been special.
A kind of a Star Is Born style duet with Gavin Rossdale, maybe.
No. No, just get two really famous female vocalists from the 90s and put them together to write a song for that scene.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And then you'd have had
I would have loved that.
An interesting music video to go with it as well.
It might get a little bit too wicked wild, a bit too Will Smith.
No, but then that's what the epitome of the 90s was, wasn't it? So you make it even more genre
actually, that's why are we not involved?
Exactly.
I mean, we wouldn't have written the song, but
no.
We could have pitched this to Feige. Listen, you need to get two pop stars or rock stars from the 90s and get them to write something original.
Talking things just purely, 100% positive and was quite heartwarming. Obviously, the Stan Lee intro sequence at the beginning that was really sweet of them, and the cameo, him reading Mallrats. That was a lovely bit.
I watched the video the other night of
Kevin Smith talking about
Kevin Smith
it.
crying his eyes out.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to be a bloody wimp, but you know what? I know what I'd feel like in that situation.
Oh God,
If someone like Stan Lee was essentially kind of winking and nodding to me as a filmmaker, and it just recently died. I'd probably be in bloody tears as well. Maybe not on camera.
I mean, and also there's very, sadly, as time goes on, we're losing more and more kind of icons. It'd be almost like if let's say there was a scene where Harrison Ford kind of someone says, I love Video Plaza podcast, and Harrison Ford goes, I know. Then that for me would be like, oh God, I remember, it all come full circle or something. So yeah, from his perspective, not only is it surreal, but it's just something that, like he said, I can die now kind of thing, because it's something you never would expect as someone who grew up as a small kid, as a fan reading the comics, and now that it's his own works now being referenced rather than vice versa kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a double whammy for him, seeing his friend Stan and idol Stan, as well as not idol Stan as in his idol.
He's idol. His
idol and his idol reading a script and Marvel
and reiterating the lines that he's written for Stan Lee.
He wasn't even
himself.
supposed to be here today. Oh, that's Clerks.
Yeah.
I know it's Clerks. I was making a joke.
Yeah.
So we've already done the scores. So yeah, average, worth watching probably, especially if you're not paying like 12, 13 quid a ticket.
Oh yeah, and the cinema prices these days are
in the UK it's like $4.99 for us.
Yeah.
Although I saw it in 3D and the 3D was really good. Probably the best 3D I'd seen in a long time.
I managed to get it thanks to a voucher. I got it for $3.95 a ticket.
Bloody hell, you were ripped off, mate. What did you think before we conclude? What did you think of the de-aging?
Oh, that was really good.
And it was lovely to see Coulson back.
The Coulson de-aging seemed to be...
It was
not
just give him a bad haircut.
Yeah, it didn't seem to be as finessed as the Samuel L. Jackson.
But I think Samuel L. Jackson looked exactly like he did in the 90s.
No, that's what I mean. No, that's what I'm saying. That
it was just like, did he film this in advance in the 90s?
That's what I'm inferring, is that the Samuel L. Jackson one was done to perfection, while the Coulson one there was a bit of an uncanny valley kind of vibe around his head at odd occasions kind of thing.
I suppose they had to get Samuel L. Jackson's de-aging done better because he was in a large portion of the film.
True.
So they probably threw more money at the Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. What did you think of the whole...
Samuel L. Jackson.
The lore and the explanation behind certain things. So, like, for example, Samuel L. Jackson losing his eye, the way in which it's called the Avengers...
I think the bit with Samuel L. Jackson losing his eye could have been done in like a one-shot add-on to a Blu-ray release. It didn't need to be shoved in a film.
I think it was all...
funny. It kind of ruins a few things, but...
yeah, it was kind of okay. I think him having a bit of like a dodgy sort of eye in the first place, and then kind of...
They could just have him rewrite the myth every film now, saying, "Oh yeah, it was space pirates. Oh yeah, it was Thanos. Oh yeah, it was."
I did think her Carol Danvers having that Danvers I meant to say having that kind of supposed middle name of Avenger.
Yeah, that was just like, what you're doing.
That was a bit weird.
I cringed.
I cringed. Yeah. And especially,
and then went on Rotten Tomatoes and gave it a bad review. Damn you, Marvel!
No, I cringe as well because of the fact that we've already been told that she wasn't allowed to fly any planes with the exception of that.
Yeah, but she still would have given herself a name.
Yeah, but you don't give yourself a nickname. You're meant to have earned a nickname.
All right, Welshie. You gave yourself that name.
No, only on Xbox Live. Not in any bigger context.
No, I thought that was a very cringe-worthy scene. Hopefully we never speak of that ever again.
But despite...
in the Marvel Cinematic
Despite other people's kind of reservations behind it, the whole thing of her... being knocked down and picking herself back up again, knocked down, picking herself back up again.
She just thinks she's bloody Rocky, doesn't she?
But I know
it's not about how hard you get hit.
I know it sounds really sort of sad, but I actually got a bit of goosebumps for that bit.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not like she lost an uncle or didn't have any parents or,
It might have just been...
half of the universe kind of like turned into dust around her.
No, obviously it wasn't something that kind of had me in sort of awe, but I think that the filmmakers proved that they handled what is considered to be a cliche moment in a way that, I don't know, sort of resonated on screen, and it gave me a bit of a goosebumps.
It was motivation, but it wasn't enough of a motivation that I wanted to see.
No, but I just think as a snippet, not within her
I want to see them all suffer.
But as
quite clearly,
as a snippet, though, I kind of thought it worked. But I did think that the friend character was sort of underutilized, and
they could have given her a bit more of a, something to root for. I don't know.
Yeah. Also...
my dad was an ass.
Hang on. I just realised...
Aren't they all?
That, which we'll talk about in the next video, which is the Avengers Endgame, is do you think that the daughter will crop up? Because obviously she is now at a point in time where she is a
character in the comics, isn't she? She's some character I can't remember the name of right now.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Do you think that she'll have any superhero type presence, or just be
I don't know.
character?
She's supposed to be a character that does glow. And,
Oh.
you know, Samuel L. Jackson did mention that. Sorry, Nick Fury did mention Fury. Mention it's like, oh, you need to learn to glow like Auntie Carol first.
Oh, maybe.
So it is a wink and a nod.
Because as it currently stands, in terms of characters who aren't superheroes within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they don't really get much of a platform. So with the exception of Samuel Jackson, who's kind of almost become a bit of a superhero iconically with his eye patch and everything. But you could just say...
He's not David Hasselhoff though, is he?
No, it's true. But Coulson, you could say, is the only really... And Pepper Potts are the only two identifiable non-superhero characters within it.
Well, maybe not a hero because you got Loki. He's not really a hero. He's
more of a villain. He just falls into the villain camp. But it would be great maybe to see that character, the daughter, grown up as a SHIELD agent, perhaps.
What do you mean, like they did with Peggy Carter's niece? It's been done.
True. But maybe handled a bit better. Who knows?
Anyway, do you think Marvel handled this film well or not? Tell us let us know in the comments. And please follow us on Instagram. The Instagram address will be just above on the video, just above somewhere.
You're pointing, corner. But they can't see it.
I'm pointing because we did a test with an actual video recorder earlier on to do videos like that rather than just with a microphone. Hopefully that may one day see the light of day.
True.
But yeah, give us an email on videoplazapodcast@gmail.com.
And all our social media links are in the description. And check out and look out for our review of the just recently dropped today, which is Thursday, the Avengers Endgame trailer.
Yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot to us. Thank you for listening.
I mean a lot to his mum and my mum.
I'm going to delete this part.